Wait, working?
Working.
Alright. We good to go?
Hello.
I think so. Alright, solid. Here we go. We're on the road, so if it cuts out, bear with us. We'll try to pause along the way.
Yeah.
But basically, live Q&A. So if you have any questions along the way, type them in. We'll see them pop up. And we want to do some training. We had a question in some comments last week about what do you think about fasting? Okay, and we had a new student who was also like, hey, so should I be practicing fasting? Or what does that even mean? Well, let's clear the air up on what fasting is and what it is not, its benefits, its proposed benefits, and how that can affect you. For one,
after you fast, yes.
So I started practicing fasting called Lean Gains diet, which is basically 16/8 back in like 2013 or 2012, way back then.
And that means you fast for 16 hours and you eat for 8.
Yeah.
The 16/8.
Yeah, so Lean Gains diet is basically a 16/8 protocol of fasting and eating. And fasting, if we think about breakfast, right? You're breaking a fast from sleeping at night. So fasting is any period of time that you're not consuming calories. That's all fasting is. Now, part of the theory behind it is it's because it's kind of built into us from an evolutionary standpoint to be able to go long periods of time without food, because at points in most of our human history, we didn't have easy access to food until maybe the last 100 years. So there are certain things that happen in your body that are conducive to fasting. It's like there's some long-term health benefits from fasting. Some things to think about with fasting. If we're thinking about fasting from a nutrition fat loss standpoint, the bulk of why fasting works is because you organize your day and week into a certain pattern that puts you in a caloric deficit. So we've talked about the last couple of weeks. We've posted a bunch about nutrition, and it's not our favorite topic to talk about because we want to talk about just being strong and moving better. But it's also important because we need to educate people on different ways that we can manipulate our nutrition to create results. So fasting. Rule of thumb is you can consume anything that does not have calories. Water, coffee, tea.
If you're practicing fasting.
And that's it. So anything outside of that breaks a fast. It doesn't matter. Anything breaks that fast. The goal is to use fasting in a way that, let's just say that you always eat a donut and a latte every morning, in theory, right? Now let's say, you know what, I'm going to practice a 12-hour fast and I'm not going to eat until 10 o'clock every day. And then 3 weeks later, you're like, wow, I've lost weight because of fasting. No, you lost weight because you stopped eating donuts every morning.
The donut and the latte, right? You cut out 400 calories in your morning.
Yeah, but for some people, it's easier to say, I'm fasting, not I'm giving up donuts.
Right.
So it's like you're adding a process in instead of taking something away, which can be very positive when you're thinking about, I'm doing this to make this happen.
Right.
I think there's a couple things that people think the fasting part is actually why they're losing weight, and the fasting and the lack of like the timing doesn't really have a huge effect on your weight loss. There are some hormonal changes that you're putting your body into different states of stress or de-stress or eustress, however you want to think about it, that's creating some patterns or disrupting patterns. So yes, if you practice fasting, you can 100% lose weight by rearranging your day. But if you fast and you do a 16/8, but you consume the same amount of calories inside of your 8 hours that you were consuming in your 12-hour window before, you're not going to lose weight. Right? That's just not going to make any difference.
It's not going to make a difference.
Yeah. Outside of weight loss, there are some benefits if you find yourself being someone who's highly dependent on carbohydrates for energy. So you have you're insulin resistant. I was that way from bodybuilding for a long time, where I was like, if I don't eat every 3 hours, I'm going to pass out and get all hangry. And I realized what was happening was I had convinced my body that the only way it could create energy is by using energy from carbohydrates. So fasting helped teach my body to look for different fuels for fuel sources. So it can be beneficial in teaching your body a different mechanism in energy. So if you find yourself somewhere like, well, I have to eat every morning or else something, whatever,
right,
or I have to eat every 3 hours. If you ever have to say I have to in any part of your nutrition, you have a problem with nutrition, good or bad.
Yeah.
Well, I have to eat this many grams of this or that many this. No, then you should probably look at your diet, or or I can never go without protein bars. You should look at what's happening in your life, because we should be able to be not live that way.
Right.
Okay. Other things about fasting. You do not have to fast every single day.
Right.
So you could say, you know what, I'm going to make a small change to my normal patterns, and I'm going to fast on Tuesday, Thursday. And that could be the only change you make, and you could start to bump your equilibrium of energy and energy out. Or you could start to bump your body's ability to process food and carbohydrates.
Yeah. So sometimes I just like to fast randomly if my digestion feels a little off, or feeling bloated, or just giving my body like more time to process and digest food, and it feels good.
Yeah. That's the third. That's another benefit of fasting, is it can help with GI distress. So if you think about, you are constantly consuming things into your body, right? Which means your body is constantly processing things. That if you were to give your body a break and just really start to process nutrients, that you would relieve some GI stress. So it's good to do every week or every 2 weeks, just to go, you know what, I'm going to fast as long as I can without getting into like hangry.
Right.
And then let your body really kind of digest things and let that process happen.
Right.
The last thing that's a theory about long-term fasting for long-term health is that there's a lot of stuff out there about 24-hour and 36-hour fasts, or fasting regularly over years, that are very, let's see, how do I put this? They're kind of like precancerous. So if you allow your cells the opportunity to work amongst themselves without interruption, that becomes a more resilient body, and that can add years to your life and quality of your life, and is being studied quite prevalently about prevention of disease in practicing fasting.
Yeah.
So that's another benefit of it. I think, do you have another fasting thing?
Yeah, maybe side note for females, if you are practicing fasting, I would start paying attention to hormones and your cycle, all of that stuff, because there's been studies done after 3 days of fasting in a row can have some negative effects on it. So if I practice fasting, I do like one time a week. I don't do it multiple days in a row, because girls are a little different. So just gotta pay attention, be aware that could happen.
Yep. No, that's good.
That's it.
Yep. So females, I've noticed this with a lot of people, is that fasting, males do way better off fasting than females do.
Yeah.
The fasting is a stress on the body, and so the woman's body seems to handle that stress differently than a male. Doesn't mean that a woman can't practice fasting.
Right.
It's just that you want to make sure, man, maybe I'm not fasting every day, or I'm not doing fasting for more than 12 hours,
Right.
or randomly doing 14, 16, 18, something like that.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm trying to think what else is about fasting. That's pretty much it. It is recommended that you consume your calories as soon as possible with exercise post-fasting. So, the tighter your windows are of consuming food and exercise seem to have more benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, and this comes from like stress hormones and hunger hormones, etc. So if you can go through a fast and finish your workout at the end of the fast and then consume calories, your body's going to want to soak up those calories more efficiently. So it's another way you can handle your, like, structure your fasting.
Like, would you want to, like, let's say you were fasting and work out in the morning.
Yeah.
And then that's at like 7 a.m. and then you're not going to eat until like 2 p.m.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
That's all right. There's nothing bad or good about doing that. That's a per person thing. The last thing that's a common myth is that if you do cardio on an empty stomach, that it's more efficient at burning fat. Completely false. There's zero studies showing that's proven at all. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. So if you do want to start practicing fasting, good rules of thumb is start with something you know you can manage every other day or every 2 days, or 2 days on, 2 days off, or 1 week on, 1 week off. And then you never want to push a fast past like you getting like dizzy or lightheaded.
Yeah, like lightheaded.
And then you also have to be really careful that when you do fast, it's literally water, caffeine, water, coffee, tea only.
Yeah. And when we say coffee, like, no good stuff in there.
Yeah,
it's just
straight up.
Drink that shit black.
Yeah. And there's there are two camps that talk about sugar alcohols being good and bad during fasting. So chewing sugarless gum or sugar-free energy drinks or any of that stuff, I would highly recommend you stay away from them as much as possible while you're fasting to get the best benefit from the fast. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So that's what fasting is. By the way, a male, 16/8s, 12/12s, 24s, I do think it's super important that maybe half a year, every 4 months, once a year, that everyone do one 24-hour fast, because what it does is it teaches you what real hunger pains are.
Right.
What you think is hungry and what is really hungry are two different things.
Yes.
So if you practice a 24-hour fast and you go, okay, wow, no, that's what I really meant when I was hungry, then you know in the future, no, maybe I'm probably not hungry, I'm just bored. Or I need to drink more water or something like that.
Yeah, sometimes we just get in a habit of like eating certain snacks at certain times because we're like, oh yeah, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But it's just like a pattern of doing it.
Yeah, and you're really not.
You're really not hungry.
Yeah, that's not it. So we'll hang out here for another 30, 40 seconds. And if you have any questions about fasting, if you have any questions about anything, this is an opportunity to ask. So just drop them in the comment and we'll hang out and talk about something.
How awesome everyone's Turkish get-ups have been.
Get-up PRs have been great. Good pressing, good squatting. Everyone's doing really good.
The bite test, the conditioning.
Everyone's doing great.
Yeah, it's been so good. We are popping some firecrackers tonight.
Yep.
So, that's fun. Alright. Nobody?
So, no questions about fasting?
Okay.
Crickets. Questions about anything from training, mobility, nutrition, mindset, questions about the gym, questions about anything.
In-body scale, any of that stuff.
Good. Okay.
Good, and
we're out of here. If you're watching this later on and you do have questions, please put them in the comments and we will answer them in the comments and help you get cleared up about what fasting is and what fasting isn't. The reason I said is fasting making you fat? Because if you fast and you still overconsume calories, you're still going to gain weight. That's all there is to it.
You put in all that effort to be hungry for 16 hours and then...
Yeah. All right. We're out of here. Have a solid weekend.